Monkey makes Norm 1 El Loco Hombre. That's after some vital information for telly heads everywhere in the art show.
Modern science has produced countless miracles, from complex robotics to melt-in-the-mouth chewing gum strips. Yet these are needless folly compared to mankind's greatest invention, television. Television is watched worldwide by people of every age, culture, creed, sexual persuasion and weight. In a recent survey of favourite pastimes, watching television overtook breathing for the first time. But what exactly is television? Put simply, it's a box for watching pictures on. Put less simply, it's a device inside which electromagnetic fields guide streams of electrons towards a phosphor screen covered in thousands of minute coloured dots, which the human brain interprets as a moving picture. But you don't need to know that. In fact, for all the difference it makes, television may as well be controlled by magic space mice. To use a television, you simply watch it. And if you don't know how to do that, do not change channels until we instruct you to do so, because this programme has been designed specifically to teach you how to watch television. If you're about to watch television, the first thing to ask yourself is, do I have a television? If the answer is no, you'll have to go and buy one, and this means choosing a television. In the early days of broadcasting, all television sets looked like this. But today, a ridiculous array of sets is available, leading ill-informed shoppers to confusion and ruin. Modern stores stock wafer-thin plasma screens alongside traditional, more rubbish models. These provide an excellent picture and can be wall-mounted, but also have the disadvantage of marking the owner out as a bit of a shallow ding-dong, especially if he dribbles into a bucket while watching, like this man. When choosing a set, the most important question to ask yourself is standard or widescreen? Widescreen televisions have many advantages. For example, this sequence, in which two men carry a ladder horizontally toward the viewer, loses 40% of its impact if viewed on a regular screen. But widescreen isn't all fun with ladders. Selecting the correct aspect ratio can prove problematic. The phrase aspect ratio refers to the shape of a programme. Old 4:3 programmes don't fit the 16:9 format popular today, so compromises must be made. The viewer has three options. Option 1. Watch the action in a compact box in the centre of the screen.
Blah, 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 news.
This can
blah,
be frustrating
blah,
due to the
blah,
area
blah,
wasted
blah,
on either
blah,
side.
Figures going
Intellectual
up,
viewers
blah,
might
blah,
like to use this
coming
space
up,
to make
blah,
notes on the
blah,
broadcast
blah,
using a
report,
dry white marker, although this will probably annoy others in the room, particularly if your comments are ill-informed and puerile.
Report, city news, sports news, weather.
Option 2. Zoom in until the entire screen is filled.
We got a graph that come up, poll results, figures, scientific report.
Again, this is less than ideal, since important captions and information often disappear from view. For instance, anyone watching this news bulletin in zoom-in mode is missing vital information.
And a new report on that and a report on this.
Option 3. Stretch the image to fill both sides.
Live report, interview coming up, blah, 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 report.
Stretching is perhaps the least rewarding option of all, with the image distorted to the point of incomprehension until the viewer feels drunk and disorientated. Only an idiot watches television like this. It is an idiot's solution.
Update and bulletin which come in from the field and from the reporter who is in the field.
Aspect ratios are such a minefield, the inability to decide on one setting can have tragic consequences. Fortunately, since most modern broadcasts are widescreen from birth, both standard format televisions and violent rampages are now obsolete. Next, decide where to place your set. Ideally, your television should be situated in a position from which it can cheerfully dominate your entire living quarters. Once it's positioned, reposition everything else in the room to leave a clear path to the set. Next, limit your desire to leave the room by scattering food and drink within arm's reach and installing basic toiletry facilities at the foot of your seat. The prominence given to television in your daily life speaks volumes, so choose wisely. Meet Piers and Brian. Brian has a widescreen television dominating his living room, with large speakers on either side. His home is the static equivalent of a theme park ride, whilst Piers has chosen to emphasise how unimportant television is to his life by deliberately buying a small 14-inch set and hiding it in the corner. Which is the fool? The answer is Piers, because he's a pseudo-intellectual called Piers. He also has a crick in his neck caused by a lifetime spent sitting at an awkward angle, squinting at the late review on his tiny box. If Piers were to visit Brian's home and enjoy Krzysztof Kieslowski's Three Colours trilogy on Brian's surround sound home cinema system, he would soon see the error of his ways. But this is unlikely to happen for two reasons. Firstly, because Brian doesn't have the Three Colours trilogy in his DVD collection, which largely consists of porn hidden behind pirated Hollywood blockbusters. And secondly, because Brian and Piers don't really get on. Once your television is positioned, you'll need to choose a programme. Deciding what to watch isn't easy, but just as connoisseurs choose a wine that suits their meal, astute viewers select programmes that complement their mood. For instance, if you're sad, a light entertainment show may lift you from the doldrums, and if you're happy, watching a news bulletin will help bump you back down to reality, until it's time for the next light entertainment show, and so on. This is known as infinite distraction. Regulating your mood using infinite distraction will help you maintain the correct level of intellectual blankness necessary for prolonged periods of viewing. We'll learn more about infinite distraction later. First, let's examine the listings. Although television listings can help you decide what to watch, the sheer amount of information within is daunting, and with new channels arriving each day, the situation is getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. This video from the National Televisual Research Laboratory demonstrates just how dangerous such proliferation of choice can be. This man has been channel surfing for the past 89 hours. Having failed to decide what to watch before switching his set on, he's come adrift in a sea of endless disappointment, which is the precise opposite of infinite distraction. Continually suspecting there's probably something better on the other side, he moves from channel to channel with the desperation of a starving desert hound. Sometime later, he finally expires. This is why using listings wisely is important. You should select a programme in advance and stick to it, regardless of what's on the other side. That's why an increasing number of channels favour programmes with eye-catching titles. For example, a title such as The World's Bloodiest Police Shootouts tells you the programme itself will be jam-packed with horror, violence and wobbly camera work, while When Checkout Girls Bend Over indicates a hard-hitting investigation into female sexuality. As a general rule of thumb, the more self-explanatory a title is, the worse the programme itself will be. A show called America's Gooeyest Clips, in which a kitten pokes its head out of a Wellington boot, should be avoided by everyone except the most gurgling simpleton. A title consisting of a single forename or surname is almost certainly a daytime talk show, such as Trisha or Kilroy. Talk show topics vary wildly, but can be quickly identified by the synopsis in the lower portion of the screen. This works in a similar way to eavesdropping your way around a cocktail party to see which conversation will prove the most interesting.
Yeah, that's quite good. Basically, I eat as much meat as I like, but no pasta, no cheese.
You can father your way out of a paper bag. You can shut up, and you can both shut up. It's my baby. I'll take any test. Yeah, I'll take any test. We'll now take a short break from our lesson to show you some commercials. These are sponsored messages paid for by manufacturers in an attempt to cajole the audience into making knee-jerk purchasing decisions. And they differ from standard programs in that while standard programs are made by cretins, commercials are made by absolute cretins. Bear that in mind during the following sequence. When choosing what to watch, you should also pay careful attention to any extraneous words used in a program's title, as these provide valuable clues to its content. For instance, the word extra often indicates a cheaper cut-down spin-off version of a popular program, produced specifically to drive terrestrial viewers to a station's less popular digital offshoot. Since such productions often have a budget of 15 pence and are essentially the unloved gingerhead runt sibling to the main broadcast, watching them can be rubbish. So, when you see the word extra, mentally replace it with the words cast-offs, leftovers or scrag ends for a clearer idea of what to expect. The word uncut is slightly different. This indicates a more extreme version of a programme originally broadcast in an earlier time slot. For example, if the 9:30 showing of a programme called Twit Club contains twits exhibiting slightly raucous behaviour, the 11:30 Twit Club Uncut will feature twits who are completely out of control. But whatever type of twit you prefer, the likelihood is that at some point you'll find yourself watching something disappointing, during which time the compulsion to channel surf can be hard to resist. But you can stave off the urge to flip by exercising and increasing your boredom threshold. The following sequence will help you gauge your own boredom threshold. It lasts just 60 seconds, but will feel far, far longer. All you have to do is count the number of times you find yourself fighting the urge to change channels. The sequence starts now. The average viewer has to resist the urge to switch channels 48 times during that sequence. Your boredom threshold is considerably lower, which is why you're still here, isn't it? Dum-dum. Many modern programmes aren't content to simply lie back and be stared at, so they encourage the viewer to interact with the broadcast itself. For example, this phone-in quiz from daytime show This Morning poses a question and invites viewers to call a premium rate number with the solution. But the most difficult question to answer about this quiz is, why bother with the quiz at all? Since the answer is so obvious, only a backward farmhand who'd spent the morning smacking himself on the head with a spade could possibly get it wrong.
The answer is C.
So why did they bother with the quiz? Was it A, to flatter the audience into thinking themselves clever, B, to ensure more people phone in, Or C, because TV producers are obliged to make such contests into a game of skill rather than a straightforward lottery, which is why they cover their asses by providing an insultingly simple question, while simultaneously ensuring as many people as possible will call their expensive phone line, thereby insulting the viewer's intelligence twice at the same time. The correct answer, of course, is C. Which leads us to another question, namely, the average programme maker believes the audience is A, intelligent, B, demanding, or C, a dumb mass of exploitable proletarian flesh bags with little or no mind of its own. If you think you know, call 090 987 909 81. We'll tell you the answer in a moment, so get dialing. In the meantime, back to interactivity.
From now on, you are entirely in control.
Reality TV shows often feature a phone-in eviction vote, where the audience decides which preening dumbbell they can withstand the longest. Weirdly, such votes often result in a frightening display of eugenic conformity, as any contestant exhibiting a glimmer of individuality is quickly ejected, leaving behind a bland wash of automatons from which the winner will eventually be drawn. This sometimes leaves the producers struggling to make the programme seem interesting, and explains at a stroke why the answer to our earlier question was C. There are other, more sophisticated examples of interactivity which you should accustom yourself with at the earliest opportunity. For example, this is the Friendly TV channel, which encourages viewers to interact with its on-screen presenters, or friends, via text message, or by telephone.
Let's see. Hello, Friendly TV. Hi, who's this? Sorry? George, how are you and where are you from, George? London, wonderful. What are you up to today? Nothing. Okay, George, thanks for ringing and speak to you soon. Bye. Yeah? Oh, he's gone. I just spoke to George, who's actually from London.
As you can see, the greater the level of interactivity, the greater the level of involvement engendered in the viewer. But extreme involvement can be dangerous.
Quizlos hubby's suicide. A husband killed himself after his wife beat him in the Test the Nation TV quiz show, An Inquest Heard. When she scored a higher mark as they watched the BBC General Knowledge show, he threw his notepad and pen across the room and called himself Thick. After his wife went to bed at their home, he took about 40 pills and drank a bottle of vodka.
However, such tragedies are rare. Most programmes try to make you feel good about yourself, and this, coupled with infinite distraction, makes it easy for viewers at home to use television to block out the reality of their lives. Used carefully, television can induce a trance-like state in the viewer, which has many beneficial uses. For example, this couple fell out of love 4 years ago, but have learned that using television as a substitute for personal interaction dramatically reduces the level of mutual loathing between them. Thus, television has kept their relationship alive well beyond its natural duration, and with any luck will continue to do so until the end of their lives together. Thanks to her use of television, this woman is unaware of her own lack of life experience. By watching people on television converse, laugh, attend parties and fire pistols, she shares some of their enjoyment and consequently has little desire to take part in mundane human activities such as attracting a mate or scaling the career ladder. Instead, she has created a secure mental bubble for herself, which is unlikely to ever be breached by outside contact. Here we see a man amusing himself and a friend by making sarcastic comments about a TV show. Such behaviour keeps both entertained and reinforces their shared sense of superiority. Cynical or sardonic viewers often believe that they have a firmer grasp on reality than the masses watching the same broadcast unironically, who, they reason, must be in some way insane to put up with such garbage. Yet this is not the case. Serial killer Dennis Nielsen used to watch television in the company of his victims' corpses, muttering sarcastic comments on soaps and sitcoms as he cuddled their lifeless bodies. In other words, one's capacity to mock an episode of Bargain Hunt should not be taken as a reliable indicator of mental health. and indeed may mark its protagonist out as an angry outsider harbouring deep resentment for society. Here we see another outsider harbouring resentment in front of his television. He believes his anger is caused by the low quality of the programme he's watching, but in reality it's fuelled by his own underachievement. In his youth he dreamt of being a great playwright, but things have not gone well, and he now works in the marketing department of a shoe company. Watching mediocre television merely reinforces his belief that he could write better stuff than that with his eyes closed. Were he to switch off the set and channel his rage into creating a heartfelt work of fiction, he might achieve great success, but would also be devoid of his favourite hobby, sitting around, consumed with bitterness. As you've seen, there are countless ways to watch television. So far we've looked at the most common methods. Finally, let's examine unconventional viewing techniques. Most people watch television with their head upright, but there may be occasions when they're unable to do so. This man has recently suffered a traumatic breakup and simply can't raise himself from the throes of despair. Note the horizontal positioning of the body. At this angle, his head is turned through 90 degrees, rendering on-screen images confusing to the eye. As we'll see now, it is possible to create programs specifically aimed at viewers using this technique. For the following sequence, tilt your head 90 degrees to the right.
Karen, what a pleasant surprise.
Drop the act, Mike. You don't like me, and I don't like you. But while we've got to use this lift together, let's just be adults, shall we?
Whatever you say.
Sadly, this pioneering sideways format does nothing to improve the overall quality of the broadcast. Now, let's try another unusual technique, this time a form of sexist interaction. The following sexist sequence has been designed to only make sense if the viewer follows the instructions on screen. So follow the instructions on screen.
Hello, I didn't see you there. What can I do for you? I see. Would you like a drink first? What can I get you? Oh, bless. Ice? Pardon? Right you are. Back in a moment. That's a filthy habit, you know. Here's your drink. Now, why don't you close your eyes while I take off these silly old clothes,
Note how the concept falters when the viewer disobeys instruction. Throughout this programme we've shown you how to select and position your television, how to choose a broadcast, and the many different ways you can look at the screen. You are now fully qualified to enjoy the rest of your evening's viewing of television. You're viewing of television. You're watching television. Look at me. I'm you, and I'm watching television. You're watching television. You're watching television. You're watching television. You're watching television. You.